With the final season of, well, let's just put it this way. Most people in Michigan have checked out of the NFL season, but we have reached championship Sunday in the NFL, and I kind of feel obligated a little bit. I'm not one of those Lions fans that since the Lions lost last week that they're not going to watch any more football, NFL football because the Lions let them down, which is ridiculous. Maybe they won't watch the championship games, but they'll probably tune into the Super Bowl and come next fall, they'll be watching football again. But I was disappointed that the Lions lost. I disagree with most people that throw all the blame on Jared Goff. He was part of the problem. Absolutely 100% without a doubt. He was part of the problem of that game, why they lost. I also don't agree with most Lion fans. Well, the Lion fan, let me rephrase it this way. The Lion fans that insist that Ben Johnson already knew he was going to Chicago and mailed in his game plan. I don't believe that either. I think it was just a case of their defense couldn't stop Washington. The offense started to press a little bit too much, try to get, 10 points, get the lead back with one play, which we know is impossible to do. And things just snowballed from there. And it was just a circumstance of bad things happening. So that's why the Lions lost the game. To blame the whole team, the whole coaching staff. It wasn't just Jared Goff. It wasn't Ben Johnson. But now that Ben Johnson is the head coach of the Chicago Bears, which I may do a little rant about that too shortly, and Aaron Glenn is now the head coach of the New York Jets. That means the Lions are looking for two new coordinators and a host of other assistant coaches that have left in lieu of the coordinators leaving. Antoine Randall L., the receivers coach, being the major one that left to join Ben Johnson's staff in Chicago to be his receivers coach slash assistant head coach. But it's not really a surprise. Antoine Randall L. was a sort of rising coach in the NFL ranks as it is. But a lot of Lion fans aren't going to or claim they're not going to watch any football, as I stated earlier. And yeah, I may not have as much interest as I did, but I kind of have this love of the game of football. And even though my team is out, I'm still going to watch the two games and hope for some kind of outcome that I'm almost sort of rooting for. The one I will say that we'll just go to the AFC game right now. If the Lions couldn't be in the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, then I was really hoping that the Buffalo Bills could be in there. So when it comes to the AFC championship game between the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, on paper, you kind of look at it and you think, it's the Chiefs. They're going for the three-peat. And I know everybody out there has their little conspiracy theories about the referees and the Chiefs and the whole NFL wants the Chiefs in there for the whole Taylor Swift thing and all of that. And I don't really buy that. I think a lot of the heat that has been created from the Texans game may play a little bit of a part in this game And what I mean by that is some of the calls that Mahomes, i.e., the Chiefs, were getting when they clearly weren't penalties and they were getting called penalties. I don't necessarily think that, I think the NFL is going to sort of dial it in a little bit. And I don't think there's going to be as much egregious calls, very many superstar calls, unless they're uber obvious with that game. So when it comes to the game, what do I think? Well, um, if you look at it on paper, the Chiefs are by record the better team, but they've been sort of eking by in a lot of games this year. Their offense isn't what it historically has been. And it seems like almost since kind of the Lions game that Buffalo has really offensively been on a roll. And yeah, their defense isn't the greatest defense in the league, but again, like I just said, the Chiefs don't have the offense they had sort of a couple of years ago when they were seemingly unstoppable. Now they kind of lean a little bit more on their defense to win games. So it's going to be sort of an interesting clash. And will it come down to the fact that they're playing in Kansas City? Kansas City has the home game that decides this. And I don't know. Maybe it's just the hope in me, but I'm thinking that there just seems to be this sort of presence that's built up behind Buffalo that it's almost a destiny, if you will, that they finally get over their hump. They've been trying for a few years now to get over that hump of beating the Chiefs in the playoffs. And I think this year might actually be the year that they finally do it. So I hope I'm not wrong because I really would. If there's going to be any team that's not the Lions that win the Super Bowl, then I really do hope it's the Buffalo Bills. So I actually think this is the year. So take it for what you will, that I do think the Buffalo Bills are going to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. As far as the NFC Championship game goes, well, let's just say I'm still a little bit perturbed at my Lions wrecking destiny, if you will. Because if you want to talk about destiny, what better destiny would there have been than the Detroit Lions, who have never been to a Super Bowl, who haven't won a championship in 70 years, close to 70 years, but close enough, playing in the Super Bowl against the Buffalo Bills, who have been to 4 Super Bowls, but lost all 4 of them. What other destiny would that would have been ratings gold, the Lions versus the Bills in the Super Bowl. But alas, it didn't happen. And we have in the NFC Championship game 2 NFC East foes facing off for a third time this year when the Washington Foot Commanders take on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not a fan of either team, really. I can appreciate what Saquon Barkley has brought to the Eagles offense. And I think it was something that they desperately needed as far as their offense goes. I know they were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but they lost to the Chiefs because they couldn't run the ball. Now it seems like they can run the ball sort of at will. And is that going to be the difference in the game? Well, one thing I will say going back to the Commanders and the Lions game, is one thing the Lions were able to do, and I kind of wish they wouldn't have stopped doing it, is they were running the ball at will against Washington. The turnovers that they had were all because of the passing game. Nothing, there was no fumbles in the running attack. As a matter of fact, Detroit and specifically Jameer Gibbs was just tearing up Washington's defense. So if Philadelphia goes into this game and just keeps feeding the ball to Saquon Barkley, I don't really see any way that Washington can come out victorious. And at some point, and I know a lot of people are really all up about the rookie quarterback having this Cinderella season with Washington, but at some point, you got to realize that he's still a rookie. And as you advance each and every game, things are going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. And has he proved the point that he's going to be one of the elites in the NFL? Well, he certainly seems to be trending in that direction. But do I think Jaden Daniels is elite? No, no, not yet. Because how many times in the history of the NFL have we seen a quarterback, whether it be a rookie or just any random quarterback in general, come out and have this huge stretch of games where he just looked like he was setting the world on fire, and everyone thought he was going to be the next great quarterback, and then he was never able to repeat that again. Do I think that's what Jaden Daniels is going to be? I don't know. We'll have to wait till next year. Do I think it's now? No. Certainly, if Washington goes in and beats Philadelphia and goes to the Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback, he will certainly cement his place in history as one of the most momentary, epic happenings throughout NFL history. But do I think he's a superstar? Do I think he's the next elite quarterback? Do I think he's the next Mahomes or the next Jared Allen? No, I don't. Did I say Jared Allen? Josh Allen. Anyways, the next Josh Allen, the next Patrick Mahomes? No, I don't think he is. Could he be an elite one? Yes, he could, but I don't think 1 year is going to decide whether he's an elite quarterback. If he goes on to win the Super Bowl, then maybe we can talk about it, but not yet. I think there's a little too much of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia's defense is way better than what Detroit put on the field last week, because we all know the story of Detroit and the woes they had with their defense. So I think it's going to be a different kind of competition that Jaden Daniels is going to have to face this week in Philadelphia than he did last week against a Lions defense that had, 14 players from their defense on injured reserve. I don't think there's a ton of injuries, or I know there's some injuries in Philadelphia's defense, but not really where it matters the most. So, unfortunately, I think of the two games this weekend, this one's probably not going to be much of a contest. This will be the one that might be closer to the blowout. So, I think Philadelphia is going to advance to the Super Bowl. And I know some people out there are thinking, thank God he didn't say a repeat of 2 years ago when it was Philadelphia versus Kansas City. Now, Philadelphia will be facing off against the Buffalo Bills. And who do I think's going to win that one? Well, I guess you'll have to wait until 2 weeks from now to find out. Because if I'm wrong, then I'll come on here and say I was wrong. But the point of this whole thing is I will still watch the Super Bowl, even though my Lions aren't in it. And what's going to happen to this podcast after the football season ends? I've been thinking a lot about that because I talk mainly about football on here. That's the sport that I love the most. And college football is over, and the NFL will be over in a few weeks. So, what will I do with this podcast after that? I have a few ideas, but I'm not going to let them be announced quite yet. What might happen is this portion of the podcast may take a hiatus until the fall, and there might be something that takes its place in the meantime through spring and summer. Stay tuned for that. Let me know who you think's going to win the championship games in the comment section, and we will talk again next week to see how well my selections were. Let the games begin.